How are you, Kurt?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
I am doing fine. Let's start with Hasselbeck. You have the floor in the performance that he put up over the last 5 days in 2 games for the Colts, Kurt.
I mean, what do you say? I mean, first of all, we could just look strictly at his age and how long it's been since he's really had significant action. And then you add the fact that he had the flu and was in the hospital, on the road, short week, and come out to play like he did. It's a testament to the pro that he is. We all know he's a great guy, but the pro that he is, that he knows how to prepare, knows how to play, knows how to manage games when he has to. The big throw that he made at the end was awesome. That they didn't just run it out or throw a dink there at the end. They gave him an opportunity to finish the game with that big throw to T.Y. Just extremely impressive. And I tweeted last night, now he's making all of us old guys wonder if we could still play because he's playing at such a high level. But it's just fun to watch him because you know what kind of guy he is, and, he deserves that success when he steps out on the field, and it's been fun to watch him get this opportunity at this age.
Yeah, that 40-yarder that he threw to T.Y. Hilton to wrap it up, because the whole conversation, certainly before the game, is he told Stacey Dales in our pregame show that he didn't even know if he could make it to 4 quarters based on how he is feeling. And yet, in the fourth quarter, game on the line, 8 quarters in total over a 5-day span, right? They had the confidence to even dial that up, and he dropped a dime, Kurt. That was unbelievable.
He did. And it was awesome because they called the play, and then for him to hit it, again, with all the talk, and I think everybody goes in going, wow, short week, 40 years old, in the hospital, come on. No, the Texans haven't played well, but I don't think anybody was really giving them much of a chance with the way they've struggled as a team, and then all those scenarios. The great thing was he came out fast, too. I mean, they went down the field after the mistake by the Texans, and they go up 10-0, and then for him to finish it, it was just a gutsy performance and a fun performance to watch, and extremely happy for him.
Did you ever play sick? Really sick, Kurt? That ever happened?
Yeah, I think we all have, Rich. At some point in time, we've played, with those issues. But it's just part of the deal.
Okay. Kurt Warner joining me here at Kurt13Warner on Twitter. Let's talk about the other situation. What do you think Bill O'Brien's doing with his quarterbacks, Kurt? What's happening there?
Well, I think he's trying to figure it out. And I think he's trying to figure it out for the long haul. But I think they've both struggled at times. I still believe that Brian Hoyer is the better quarterback of the two at this point in time in their careers. But if you're Brian Hoyer, you just can't keep making those big mistakes. It doesn't matter how good you are. If you continue to make those big mistakes, we saw it last year in Cleveland at critical moments. We saw it again last night, and I know he ended up getting hit there, but you just can't make those mistakes in this business and expect to stay a starting quarterback. And I'm pulling for him because I love him. I think he's a great kid. I think he's a good quarterback. But you can't always just try to do everything on every play. And then on the other side, Ryan Mallett, I just think he's got a ways to go at learning how to play the position and specifically just throw the ball different ways. He's got a cannon. We all know that. But it really affects his accuracy from an every down standpoint. And I just think, again, it's hard to play this position and be really good without being consistently accurate at that position, and that's something that he really struggles with right now. So I'll be interested to see what they do moving forward, but I do believe Brian Hoyer is the better of the two quarterbacks now. But, I think the Texans have to look at it and go, well, can he be a long-term answer for us, or do we still have to continue to push Ryan Mallett, believing he's our best opportunity long-term?
Well, what's the moral of Ryan Mallett's night? Is it never come out of the game? or is it have better body language when you're taken out of the game?
Well, I think he came out because of the injury. But I think the moral of the story in all these situations is always play well enough that they put you back in when you're healthy. I think that to me is the moral of the story. Anytime it's up for grabs and you haven't done enough to solidify that position, then you could take a lot of different. Don't ever get hurt. Don't ever miss. Time. Don't. All those things. But I think the moral of the story when we have situations like this is always when you get your opportunity, play well enough that they can't put somebody else in. That was always my approach, because I had so many different situations where it became competitive, or it became them looking for them to put a young guy in, and I didn't want to leave it up to anybody else's decision. I wanted to be out there and say, I'm going to prove today that I'm better than the guys that are behind me, and I wanted to do it every single day. So there was no question, regardless of the situation, that if I'm healthy, I should be on the field.
But didn't he show enough in the first quarter and a half of the game to say if he's ready to come back in the game and he is your starter, to put him back in, Kurt? I mean, that was the head scratcher in this. Is like, what did Mallett do or not do from what you saw in the first quarter of that game that caused them to say, no, stay right here. Let's see what Hoyer can do in this case.
Well, I mean, I think, to me, Rich, because I've watched, all the tape, that. And I've watched him since he's been put in for Brian Hoyer. And the first game, when Brian struggled, I thought Ryan looked better when he came in and made a couple drives. Since then, I don't think he's looked all that good at the starting spot. I don't think he's consistently made the plays that were there and been consistent in the position. So I think this is more than just, last night. Yeah, he got knocked out and injured for however long, and Brian goes in. And I still think Bill O'Brien is searching and going, I don't know which of these guys is better. And so I think when you're given an opportunity, and I don't know if that's the right word, but when an opportunity comes about, like happened last night, when Ryan gets hit and you put Brian in there, it's just another chance to go, let's see what we have now, because he came in last week at the end of the game and gave us a little bit of a spark and did some good things, meaning Brian Hoyer. And now here he is again, even though we went with Ryan as a starter. Here he's back in again. Let's give him a couple series to see if we're going to get that same Brian Hoyer from last week, or if we're going to get the Brian Hoyer from week one. And I think they got last week's Brian Hoyer for the most part until, that last play. And I think he's showing himself that, hey, maybe he put too much pressure on himself early in that first game, trying to prove, why he was there. But now that he's settled in and come off the bench, I think he's done a better job than Ryan did when he was starting. But Ryan did the same thing when Brian was starting. So, again, I don't think he really knows who the right guy is, and I think they're still trying to figure it out, unfortunately, because it's hard to do in the middle of the season.
My compadre from NFL Game Day Morning on NFL Network every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Kurt Warner, you can also catch every Wednesday on NFL Total Access at 7 Eastern Time right here. What are you seeing on film of the young man that you decided to take some time to mentor this offseason, and Kaepernick? He looks like he's regressing, Kurt, to be very honest.
Yeah, I don't know if regressing, I think you have to get to a certain point for us to say regressing. I think, since Collins got into the league, I think it's been a process for him. I think we saw some great success early in his career, because when he came in, he was so dynamic with his feet and being able to make big plays with his feet. And that was kind of the time when that, zone read was huge and quarterbacks were running RG3s, and defenses didn't really understand what to do with it. So they dropped an extra guy in the box. They left man-to-man coverage on the outside. And so he got a lot of favorable situations to drop back and just throw it and pick a guy. And when he does that, he can throw it. But I think what's happened with all these guys is teams have caught up and said, well, these teams aren't going to, they're not going to just play man all the time. They're going to sit back and play zone, because these guys aren't going to run their quarterbacks as much as they did early. Now we're going to force these guys to read coverages and decipher things and anticipate and make consistent throws from the pocket. And I think you see all those guys struggle because they've never been taught to do that. And I continue to say it. These guys are such great athletes that they get away with it so much longer than other guys used to. Used to it catch up to you in high school or maybe a couple years in college. Now guys are getting all the way to the NFL level strictly because they're great athletes. And now we're asking them at 23, 24 years old, now you have to stop doing that stuff and you have to start playing the position like a normal quarterback plays the position. And you've got to learn it on the job against the best players in the world, the most sophisticated defenses and defensive coordinators, and you got to do it well every time out. And
by the way, with you getting paid, pizzade with a new contract to let this thing sort of marinate even more in a fan base that's getting more and more impatient with every start. And now this is Sunday night football spotlight for him against the Giants this week. Has he reached out to you at any point during this playing season, Kurt?
No, we haven't talked during the season. You know, I mean, I know it's never a good situation when you're having some struggles on the field and you're dealing with all that. But no, we haven't talked during the season. And I think you make a good point, Rich, is that we give these quarterbacks these huge contracts now well before they've fully proven that they can be that guy week in and week out. I mean, you can look across the board at the NFL. There's all kinds of guys that are getting these big contracts. And you're right, expectations with a $100 million contract is you need to be Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning when you go out there. And these guys are, you know, they haven't proven that they can be that to begin with, but that price tag, you know, forces us to believe they can be. And I think that's the travesty of the whole thing, is that these young men are thrown into a situation that they are not prepared to deal with and succeed in. And now we're going to keep beating them up and you know, say whatever we want to say about them, but they're not ready to do that. They've never been coached to do that, and now we're asking them at this level, you know, and during a season when all you're really doing during the week is getting prepared for the next team. You don't have time to work on your craft. That's got to already be set in stone. And so when I worked with Colin, it was trying to make him more comfortable in a throwing position, in the pocket, so, you know, so we could thrive or succeed better inside the pocket. But it's just hard to learn in a short period of time. And, you know, especially with the lack of patience that we have in the NFL.
Well, I'll see you at the game day morning meeting tomorrow. I'll be coming off the AYSO pitch, perhaps 4-0 as a coach for my team, Kurt.
I'll have my Jets gear on.
I know that.
Hopefully we'll be 4-1 at the time.
Because let's just make sure we understand here. It's not because you're trying to mentor Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? That's what your son's
is correct.
Your son's team.
My son is a huge Jets fan, so I'm coaching his team, and so we were the Bucks before. You saw me in my Bucks gear.
Yep.
Sapper loved that when I used to come in with my Bucks gear. He wanted to switch to the Jets this year, so we are the Jets, and I'll have my gear on again tomorrow.
It doesn't torture me at all, knowing that we could have had you instead of, you know, Ray Lucas. It's okay. No worries. Thank you, Kurt. Appreciate it.
All right, buddy.
Thanks, buddy. That's at Kurt13 Warner.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.